Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Tim Reiner. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and motorsports. We are not insiders. Let me introduce to you my co-host, Daniel Maldonado. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Timmy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good job on the intro there, bud.
Thank you. Tonight, our feature discussion will be the Grand Prix of Alabama
at Barber.
But first, some news and notes.
There you go. NASCAR. Can you believe it, Tim? We're going to start out with some NASCAR.
I first want to start off with last week.
You do?
You celebrated a birthday last week, didn't you?
I did. Wasn't a milestone, but it was a birthday.
It was. So you're older than me now, which is great to hear. Do you, and I'm sure you had fun on your birthday, but you share birthdays with some famous people. Did you know that?
I do.
Yeah. Who do you think I'm thinking of?
Do I share a birthday with like Greg Moore or Elio Castro Neves or something like that? I think our birthdays are all around the same time.
It's Al Unser Jr.
Oh, there you go.
Two-time winner of the Indy 500 is my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And some other people that have been around the circuit.
Who?
Ashley Judd.
Oh.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Wow. And the other one that's Kate Hudson, but I just figured you'd want to know Ashley Judd as well as Al Unser Jr. So
the former
I'm bringing that
Mrs.
to you.
Dario Franchitti.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Good job.
So
nice facts.
So
I did not know that about Ashley Judd.
You know what? I didn't either, but I looked it up, and then I looked up mine, and there's nobody. So you can't
baloney
in August.
Baloney. So we'll catch you in August.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hey,
so we're starting. Hold on, we're starting with NASCAR. That's what you said.
So I got to go back a couple of weeks in order to start with NASCAR because this is how it operates sometimes when you do a show every other week.
Mm-hmm.
I have two whys to ask about the Bristol dirt race that happened on Easter Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
First, I guess, why do they feel compelled to make Bristol a dirt race? Bristol is always one of the best races, either in the spring or in the late summer. I don't think they need a gimmick. Do you, Tim?
I'm going to say maybe on this, and I'm going to say maybe because there's a lot of people they pack into Bristol. Like they got to somehow draw people into the stadium. Plus they need to draw viewership. So it's kind of twofold. And Bristol holds nearly 153,000 people on a half mile. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think, and even on Easter Sunday, the attendance wasn't good, right? But I think it was dwindling, right? You could see a lot of open stands, and it's like a coliseum, right? As I'm sure all of our listeners know. And so you got to pack people in there. I know last year it rained. It was kind of nasty, I believe. This year, kind of the same thing. It just wasn't that great. But if you compare that to Indy, right? So Indy holds nearly 300,000, right? But they've got half of that in that little confined area.
10 times the size, right? The track is.
Yeah. It's so interesting that they do that. And, when you have the two races, you have to do something different. So I like that it's dirt. And the other piece of history that NASCAR is trying to go back to is the early days. They actually held, believe it or not, 489 NASCAR Cup Series races were held on dirt between 1949 and 1970.
Right.
And that was maybe before asphalt was that popular, but
and before NASCAR was as popular as it is.
Yeah.
So I think, they were running in venues where they could, whoever was letting them run their show. So,
yeah. And they did dirt in LA or no?
No,
they paved that. That's right. They paved that and then they ripped it up.
And they ripped it up. My gosh.
Yeah.
So I saw a little bit of it. I didn't watch a lot of it. It started out a little clunky, I think, because they had to wet the track because of the dust and things. And then there was a lot of mud that was building up on the front of the cars.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's interesting. It's not my thing. I don't mind NASCAR from time to time. I've not had a lot of time to watch it this year, but again, with the gimmicks, this goes with my, stage racing and the competition cautions and stuff like that. It drives me crazy. So my second why on this thing is, why do they have to race on Easter Sunday? Right. I just feel like there are days that should just be held aside for family and friends. You figure all the crew are there, the drivers, track personnel, they all had to work. And I'm sure
Yeah.
most of those folks probably didn't mind being there and really enjoyed being part of the show. And maybe the leadership at Bristol and whoever owns that track, maybe they did something special for the folks that had to come out on Easter Sunday to do that. But again, I just feel like that's something that should just be set aside.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think if you put it on a different day, that's probably ideal for the teams and obviously the people that work there and being able to be with their families. The only thing I can say about Easter is you pretty much have a captive audience, right? People have done their family stuff. They're sitting around in the evening. And they
Trying
had
to
over,
avoid more family stuff.
well, I like, if you think about that though, I hear like a lot of Christmas stories where people do their Christmas stuff and in the evening they go to the movie theater, right? So they go to the
Mhm.
movies just
We used
to
to do that.
maybe be with your family, but not have to talk to them because you're watching a movie. But having the people at home and nothing else on TV, I wouldn't think they had over 4 million viewers. So they had some really good ratings for that event. So even though the stands weren't full, people were watching it on TV. And I think I saw something on Twitter that said, "Do you think they're going to continue this?" And they're like, "Yeah, look at the ratings. The ratings are huge. They're not going to move that if the ratings are this good." So we'll
Right.
see what happens next year. But hopefully the teams and have a say in whether they continue it on Easter or not.
Right. So continuing along in the NASCAR theme, Talladega yesterday, which is always an exciting race. I did not get a chance to watch that race. That would have been one that I would have normally tuned in for. But it was, I mean, really one of the first nicest days we've had in Southeast Michigan. So I needed to get out and do some yard work and some work in the garage and stuff too, just to kind of try to help put winter behind us. So I didn't really
Because you
get a
rode
chance
the
to
day
look at it.
before, right?
I did. I
Yeah,
rode
see?
the bike on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I did some yard work Saturday afternoon too.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
You're
So,
busy out there.
yeah. So Ross Chastain wins by leading only the last lap. Frankly, it doesn't matter, right? And it's the only lap you got to lead.
Exactly.
All right. It's the only one that goes in the record book. He was followed by Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch in third place. Congrats to Ross.
Yeah, I saw some of the race. I watched a little bit of it. To me, it was a typical restrictor plate race.
Only good at
Entertaining
the
during,
end, right?
yeah, entertaining at the last 10 laps, right?
Yep.
And they had great ratings too. I'm all about ratings today. They had 4.7 million viewers, which is pretty much on par with what they do at Daytona. So Dan, not everybody was doing yard work like you.
Yeah, I know. So
And I had it on all day, but I left and then I came back. I was doing different things. So, but I did see the last 10 laps and it was pretty exciting.
yeah. So that's a lot of viewers. I wonder if that number is Talladega driven. The average viewership for NASCAR from 2014 to 2021, so this is pretty current, is 2.93 million viewers. So not necessarily a question to you, but just kind of putting that out there is first, I wonder if that's Talladega driven, because Talladega is fast and furious and always has the big wrecks. And, as much as you hate to believe that, wrecks drive viewership, right? People like to see all that carnage and everything going on. So, gladly the drivers are good and the cars have really come a long way. But I also think that some of that is no doubt helped by being on network. They did have one non-network race this season so far, and that was Martinsville, which only has a 1.885 million viewers. So about 1.9, let's call it. And that was on Fox Sports 1, which, real quick off the top of your head, do you know what channel Fox Sports 1 is on your Xfinity?
No, I don't even know if I get it.
Yeah, you get it. I promise you that.
All right.
Yep. But couldn't even tell you where it is. I know we get it because occasionally my favorite radio show that is simulcast on Fox Sports 2 will be on Fox Sports 1 if something's on there. So it's a long way of saying we get it. Couldn't tell you what it is. So, could that be why there was 2 million less viewers on FS1? Nobody knew they have it.
So for Talladega, do you think, having Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the broadcast drew any listeners or watchers?
It certainly drew a buzz on social media, right?
Yeah.
We saw a lot of that going on because I think what they were trying to allude to is that he's a NBC broadcaster or works for NBC or whatever, but he was
his contract.
Fox. Right? Yeah. So who cares? He's Dale Earnhardt Jr. He transcends all that stuff. So
Yeah, he does. It's
So
pretty amazing.
I'm going to have to watch some NASCAR this year. Hey, on to F1. But before we talk about the race yesterday at Imola, got some out of the mailbag. So Chris in Johns Creek, Georgia writes, I'm a new fan of F1 and I've watched your YouTube episodes. I like the ones where you reveal the clothing item in the beginning. Thanks for that, Chris. I appreciate that.
We really got that? Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm not making this one up.
I missed it. So they like your outfits that you
they enjoyed the hat and the Ferrari shirt and the Hy-Vee shirt when we did the Hy-Vee shirt.
Oh, do you have anything today?
Nothing. I'm wearing my Rolex 24 hat from.
I thought maybe you're gonna do like this, take the shirt off, and underneath was something new.
Old man underneath. That's all it is.
Oh.
So
That's
Chris
funny.
goes on to inquire about the use of DRS. Thanks for the question, Chris, and thanks for the feedback, certainly. So DRS was implemented in 2011 and was in response to the lack of ability for the cars to follow closely. This hinders the ability to make passes, and in some cases leads to races that are more processional in nature. So they were trying to goose up the show a little bit. All of the aero appendages and everything built on the car, the barge boards and everything that go on with all of that aero stuff and such leads to a lot of wake. So a lot of wake that makes it hard to follow, helps generate heat with the following car, and therefore makes passes a little bit more difficult. So the new regs this year, actually, the anticipation was that they were going to be able to do away with DRS, but as we know, DRS is still around. But what is DRS? So think about putting your hand out of the window, right, when you're driving down the freeway, and if your hand's out like this,
I've done it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've all done it. So if your hand's straight up, right, if it's perpendicular to the ground, right, pinky bottom, thumb up, right, in the wind, it's kind of hard to keep that.
For those that are just listening, so
Yeah.
Dan's showing his hand on the screen, but
if you flatten it and go palm parallel with the ground, much easier to hold that out there. Well, that's kind of a very meathead way of describing what DRS works and how it works. So it gives almost sometimes 8, 10, 12 miles an hour faster for the trailing car because he has a lot less drag. That helps them pull these passes off. So that's my very simplified
I like it.
explanation of DRS for a soda pop salesman.
Yeah, so DRS enabled is palm down.
There you go.
Palm out is DRS deactivated. So we've talked about this a few times in the recent episodes, right? And to have or not to have DRS, why are there zones? Why isn't it just whenever you want to use it, you can use it? We talked about this a little bit. And then the car's jockeying for DRS detection, the crossing that line for detection, when there's some passes going on. So I think it's going to phase out over time. I think they're going to eventually get rid of it. I don't know if they're going to continue to keep that. They ran most of the race without it this past weekend,
and it wasn't great. But I don't know if the lack of passing was, much to do about DRS and more to do about people not wanting to get off the dry line and take a chance on, what was probably still a little damp track, because there was no sun to, dry out that track in any other way. I'm sure with all that great nature, there was a lot of people in the stands that were kind of bummed out.
Yeah,
but
well, they could have been. Dan, the weather does affect the moods of people.
Of some people,
and
sure.
So if the sun had come out, you might have seen a lot more fans,
happy people,
happy fans, passing or no passing. Yep. It didn't really matter,
right? Passing or none.
Yeah, but even when they turned it on, but
it didn't get great either.
It didn't do anything.
Yeah, it didn't get great either. So I would put that down to, I think, a little bit of weather, the damp track and things like that.
What do you think of the coverage?
Coverage was fine.
The broadcast. I thought it was good.
I think the coverage is good. I love Bob Varsha, that friend of the show.
Yeah.
Steve Matchett and David Hobbs. I used to like watching that. I really, really enjoy the Sky broadcast that you get on ESPN. The no commercials. Oh yeah, I do.
Oh, you like the broadcast that it's nonstop and you can.
And it's local. I like the local nature of it. I like that they're there, they're on site. I like.
Oh, okay. I know what you're saying.
All right. I really do. Yep.
Hmm.
I do.
But
You don't?
it's fine. I don't have a feeling either way on that. I would just meant of who they covered during the race. It reminded me of covering someone in it reminded me of IndyCar covering someone midfield that they're hoping that they move forward through the field. And that's what I noticed a lot of.
Who
And
did
I
you
was
feel they
sitting
were
there,
featuring heavily in the midfield?
Lewis
Yeah, Hamilton.
Hamilton. I thought they were featuring him a ton, and he was pretty much out of the picture. He wasn't even in the points. He was 13th, whatever he was. And there was a train of cars, and they're like, oh, is he ever going to get by? No, he's not going to get by. And then they did the picture of the actual front runners. And then they still had Lewis in like a little screen on the side, kind of over here. And I was like, why are they showing that? Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting to me.
So the race yesterday was our first visit to Europe, back from 2 flyaway races, and the first sprint race of the year. For those that are not 100% up to speed on the sprint details, Friday qualifying, which is normally practice, but Friday qualifying determines the running order for Saturday's sprint race. Don't call it a race. I'm going to call it a sprint race. I don't care. The results of the sprint race determine starting grid for Sunday. They do award points for the top 8 finishers in the sprint, which is good. So, where I don't believe previously, last year when they did the sprint format, I don't believe that they awarded any points there. So I think this year they made the points.
So I thought they call it a sprint race. They don't?
No, they don't want you to call it a race because it's not a race.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
And I still have not seen one.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of the sprint races. Did you see this one?
Yeah, of course.
Is it exciting?
It was exciting at the end because Ferrari had run into so much trouble with, front tire degradation that's how
long
because
is the
otherwise
race?
Leclerc, I think it was 21 laps or something like that. It wasn't long at all. Yeah, it was pretty short. Otherwise Leclerc had this thing in hand from the start. He started second and got a much better start than Max did, and had this race in hand, but had some front tire degradation that caused him to
interesting
to relinquish the lead and finish second.
So maybe I should go check my DVR out and watch 22 laps. That's not too long.
No, it's very easy. So one thing going into the sprint, right? We had traditional qualifying. It was immediately apparent that Ferrari was still very, very good, and McLaren or Red Bull, who have been very, very good but very unreliable, at least had a very quality weekend in terms of reliability. I don't know that Max earned that pole for the sprint race on speed necessarily, but it was a very clunky kind of qualifying. It was a lot of spins and a lot of situations like that. Weather was terrible on Friday, right? Everybody was frowning on Friday.
Yep.
Saturday, the weather was really nice. Everybody was super happy. And then we were back to the frowns on Saturday or on Sunday, because the Sunday weather was garbage again.
Was the sun out on Saturday?
Sun was out. Everybody was smiling, was happy. Turn that frown upside down. So, yeah. But I want to call out a couple other things too. Just for the listeners, our pre-production meetings are insane, wildly insane, all over the board with the topics. So I think you're picking up. We talked a lot about weather. So when talking about Friday qualifying, I want to call out a couple of things. So like I said, Ferrari's good. Red Bull was good. Haas, best start for Haas ever. 4th place in the sprint for Kevin Magnussen, which was amazing. Amazing, but not in a great way. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton didn't even get out of Q1.
Wow.
Vettel, who we've not really talked about, because I was very critical of Sebastian Vettel when he was his last year in Ferrari.
I love his hair.
I know. I like the new Sebastian Vettel. I like
too.
the Aston Martin Sebastian Vettel. So
it's
outside of the Ferrari, because I'm a Ferrari fan, I'm a McLaren fan, but outside of that car, yeah.
Did you see him? I'm going to interrupt. Did you see him riding the bike and then stop to say hello to that girl and sign something?
I
Or
did
just,
not see that. No,
it was awesome. I was like,
Yeah.
go Sebastian. It was really cool. Fan interaction. I liked it.
Yep. So that was fun. And then, sprint race was obviously much cleaner and in much better conditions. Max taking the victory over Charles Leclerc, who had it, like I said earlier, had it well in hand. A very steep drop off in tire wear pushed him to second place behind Max. He was able to maximize everything he could, he being Charles Leclerc, in that race and bring that car home second. Not to be the case on Sunday, however. Race was back again in less than ideal conditions, but didn't seem to bother Max, who started from pole. He led every lap and brought home victory with Checo Perez and his teammate in second place. Very timely weekend for Red Bull, who haven't really looked that great so far this season. Maybe it's the number one curse on Max's car, given that he's running the number one. But I don't know that this was exposing any inadequacies on the part of Ferrari, though that tire deg on Saturday might be something to watch. The only inadequacy here, I would suggest, is coaching and mentoring for Charles Leclerc, who is well ahead in points. He continues to be well ahead in points. He's a full race win and the bonus point ahead in points right now.
Even after yesterday's event?
Even after yesterday, because they still have, I would contend, the strongest car and the strongest engine combination in the field so far. So Charles did acknowledge at the end of that race that he was being greedy, took too much curb and turn. You want to talk about coverage? If coverage projected there was something going to happen for Charles Leclerc, they were on board. He was coming hard behind Perez, and he took that curb. And as soon as he bounced off of that curb, I thought, oh, game over, right? He was lucky to get away with that spin. He had no damage, was able to get back going, and he finished sixth. Threw away a podium third place finish. Maybe a little bit more, but he threw away a for certain third place finish on that thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I agree with the statement that Ferrari has the best package right now. I think Red Bull has the best package. They just don't have the reliability yet, and they got it figured out. So I'm going to differ a little bit on that opinion. So I know Ferrari's leading the points and all that good stuff, or at least Charles is. And I think Red Bull has the complete package. You just got to get a little bit of the reliability in, and they did this weekend, which was really good. Given that you watched the race, I can tell you watched the race. Who was your driver of the day, Dan? Was it Max?
I'm going to agree with you. I think it's George Russell.
You think it's George Russell? Okay.
Being able to drive that Mercedes, which is diabolical, and finish just off podium, right?
Yeah, fourth.
Yeah. So that's right. That was a miracle.
Yeah.
Beating Lewis and the whole, I'm not willing or ready to go there, but he did.
But when your teammate's that far behind you, that's
right.
That's something to say about your capabilities.
In wet conditions and everything else. So who knows how that's going. But yeah, I agree with you, George Russell. At first glance, when I looked at the notes this afternoon, I thought Lando. But
that'd be my second choice.
Mine too. And the reason I would say that is because right now, and this is all relative, I think the McLaren is a better car than the Mercedes.
Oh yeah, I do. I agree with that. So
George being able to do what George did, I think.
It's outstanding.
That George would be the.
Did you see that George most recently was talking about the porpoising and chest and back pain, and that they can't continue to endure what they're enduring in the Mercedes car? And it's not just their car; it's pretty much all the cars in the paddock. I thought that was interesting, and he's like a call out to the FIA to maybe do something to the team to fix it, because he said they just can't do it. And it was interesting to me that he mentioned the up and down was taking the wind out of his lungs, right? So it was taking your breath away.
Sure.
And it's amazing that they would have to endure that, and the body can endure that, but how sore they must be going through that. So something, they got to fix that. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm not an engineer, but it's good to hear the drivers at least letting the organizations know that need to know, and hopefully they can do something about it.
I'm surprised it's taken this long for somebody to say something, right? This third race of the season, to really talk about it. If you think about it, I've never had a diagnosed concussion, right? But my son has, and I know people that have. And the prevailing wisdom on concussions today is that once you've had them, they become easier to sort of get, right? With certain movement. These guys have been racing from a very young age, and racing will certainly cause concussions. Dale Earnhardt Jr., right? I mean,
There's a lot of people.
Yeah. So, these guys who have had concussions, diagnosed or otherwise, I wonder what the impact is on their mental health, right? Their mental health, leaving these races after bouncing away like that for 3 days. It
can't be good
all the time that they're out there, right? So what kind of long-term effects it could have on some of these guys?
And if you can see it on camera, it's really
You can
bad.
imagine how bad it is.
Yeah, because the cameras conceal a lot.
Yep.
And so for that to happen and I'm glad he's speaking out about it. I hope it, really comes to something. The other thing that I saw, which was interesting, was that the cars are pretty heavy this year, which is interesting. And they said, I was looking at an article today, but the article had mentioned that teams are starting to shed the paint on the vehicles.
They're saving grams by taking paint off the car. How crazy is that?
So there was a comparison of the Williams car when it came out for pre-testing and what it looks like today. And it still has some of the same coloring, but a lot of it's been stripped.
Yes.
And the team manager had said that it's helped a ton in the performance of the vehicle, as well as the lap time around the track. And then there was some discussion about, if you just have carbon fiber, what about overheating the engine? And you got to have that. And then what's going to happen with sponsorship if people start peeling the paint off the cars? So something to watch, I think, in the races to come to see what happens to that, because from what I heard is most of the teams are well over the weight limit and they're trying to shed. And I say well over, I don't know. I guess I can attribute it. Right? Yeah, grams, I can attribute it to the bike behind you, right? And it's, has less weight, which helps you go down the road and all that other good stuff.
I'm the biggest detriment to the weight profile of my bike.
Well, there's a whole theory on that, but we'll get into that another day.
It's for another show.
Yes, for another show. So lastly on F1, unless you have more on F1?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. I think lastly, since we talked TV ratings earlier, I thought it'd be good just to say, hey, did you know that the average F1 race has nearly 80 million viewers per race?
That's crazy.
That's huge.
That's an insane number.
Yeah. You talk about NASCAR having 4.7 and how big that is. 80 million viewers. And then last year's season finale at Abu Dhabi drew 108 million viewers. That's crazy to think about. In US,
5 times what Talladega drew.
That's a little mind-boggling. And I think you sort of said it's kind of like soccer. Yeah, European soccer. And we'll call it
which is a religion, right? It's like it's like college football in the southern United States. It's religion, right? This is culture and part of the being of the country and everything else. So imagine, I mean, all of the people that tune in to
around the world,
like that. It's unbelievable. It's
mind-boggling. Yeah.
Which is how you support 3 races in the United States. It's how you support 2 races in Italy, right?
You're right. It's amazing. The reach is unbelievable, and it's something you just don't, like an everyday fan, you don't put it into perspective until you look at all of it in comparison. You're like, wow. Typically, when the F1 sort of TV ratings come out here in the US, you just see what the US sort of watches, and it's somewhere to 600 to 1 million US viewers, if you will. And then the rest of it's all coming from Europe, Asia, and across the world, right? It's pretty cool to think about.
Yeah, those numbers are unbelievable. We talked about them earlier today. It's crazy.
Totally.
Hey, you want to talk IndyCar now? We're an IndyCar podcast.
Yeah, we should talk about IndyCar because that was the plan for this show, right? We're talking about Barber Motorsports Park.
That's right. But before we get to Barber, we got to talk about testing at Indianapolis last Wednesday and Thursday. which was broadcast on Peacock, which is terrific.
It was
had
so
hours and
great.
hours of it, right? Like 6 hours.
I know
Great.
the best 2 days last week, working Indy on. It was great. I'd love to see more of that. It was really outstanding.
Yeah, me too. I was so glad. But it was not without issues. Multiple spins on the warm-up lane, one of which was a frightening spin by Will Power that he thankfully avoided hitting something or getting hit, which is the bigger fear there. Unfortunately, four-time winner Elio Castroneves was not so lucky, making contact with the wall after his spin on the warm-up lane. That was it for the 06 team as they decided not to rebuild the car for practice on Thursday.
Yeah, that 06 car was the last year's winner.
Correct.
Of the Indy 500. And Elio was pretty upset about damaging that vehicle, and they wanted to put it together the right way. So they said, you know what, we're going to pause. We're going to take it back to Ohio, and we're going to fix it. And that's what they decided to do.
Yeah.
So this whole issue with the warm-up lane, is this the Indy God saying, bring back the apron?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, I had to phrase it that way because we talked about Easter earlier, right? Had that reference. So I figured it's the Indy gods talking to the series. Seriously, though, could this be the way to go? Because at least it's the same surface as the track, and therefore the grip should be the same. And when I say this should be the same way to go, I mean the apron. Should the apron be brought back? The apron in the past would be used during practice and the race, and it would grip up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's something to it, because you treat the inside differently than the outside, which then causes a different amount of grip. I think they fixed it overnight, by the way. It seemed like it, or they told the drivers to take it easy. They did a little bit of both. But I think there's a higher power talking to the IndyCar series.
Yeah. So
you rolled your eyes.
Yeah. I didn't mean to, but I have no poker face, so I can't stop those things. The track surface and the warm-up lane, they don't get rubbered in the same, I understand. But this was a sealant that was applied that they think could have been something with the application of that sealant in that particular section. I'm willing to have an apron conversation with you separate of this, because I don't think apron comes into this at all. And whether or not there was an apron there would have not done anything to Elio Castroneves' spin, or changed Will Power's spin, or changed Alexander Rossi's spin, because you're not warming up on the apron. You're not driving out of the pits on the apron. You're driving out on the pits on the warm-up lane.
Well, there's no apron. You got to put the apron back in. And when you drive out, you're on the apron. And when you're racing, they still go below the line.
Yeah. When Elio I'm not talking about racing. I'm talking about warm-up on Peacock when Elio spun. So if there was an apron there, instead of having the grass there that Elio went traipsing through, he would have just gone into the wall faster, because it would have been all concrete as opposed to some dirt.
Yeah, but I'm saying take away the warm-up lane. Just put the apron back in.
The apron and the warm-up lane are two separate concepts.
I know.
They're not the same.
I know, but
you're not warming up on the apron, is what I'm saying to me.
They would if there was no warm-up lane, is what I'm saying.
Oh my!
Because there was no warm-up lane back in the day.
If you widen the shoulder of the road to 12 feet, it becomes a lane.
No, because the pitch is different. So the angle is different on the track, and then it comes down to the apron, which is not pitched as far. And then from there, when you're arcing through the corner, if you watch the old days, they would come down on the apron and back up into the track, and then back down to the apron and back up. So my only point to that is that while you're running laps, whether it's practice, race, what have you, you're gripping that up and you're rubbering that up at the same rate that you're rubbering the track, sort of. And when you're treating the track, you're treating the apron at the same time and the same day with the same sealant. So that way the grip is constant through that whole strip of concrete or asphalt, I should say. That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
All right. There you go. There you have it. Apron's back. Thank me
I'm
later,
done.
everybody.
Yep.
Thank me
Yep.
later.
Silly season. Doesn't it seem like silly season gets sooner and sooner every year? Doesn't it seem like every episode we have some sort of silly season comment?
Always do.
Fell down
It's
in my
year long
dentist
now.
chair here. Yeah, it is year long this year. So this week, or last week, I guess we should say, had another silly season rumor dropping from Arrow McLaren. First, it's been suggested that it's all but official that Alexander Rossi will be joining Arrow McLaren. And second, Pato O'Ward has signed an extension, or is getting ready to sign an extension. Good for Pato.
Mhm.
Is this a good landing spot for Rossi, if this ultimately proves true?
It could be, you know, I'd be surprised if he leaves Honda, right? He'd go to a Chevy team. But yeah, I think he'd fit in well there. Him and the team would gel, but I don't know. They haven't proved a whole lot yet this year, not anything more than what Andretti has proven on the track. So if that's the thought process, is that you're going somewhere that you've got a better package of engineers and cars and can finish higher up, then maybe, but maybe it's just time for a change. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Pato sticking around doesn't surprise me. He's got an eye on F1. So why would you leave an employer who has an F1 team,
The only employer.
right? That has an
Mhm.
F1 team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I don't know why you would leave there.
Yeah, I don't know either. This all is very interesting because I'm thinking about Daniel Ricciardo's position on the F1 team
Mhm.
and what's going on there. So
I think I don't think you're any different than a lot of people in that.
yeah, he had a horrible result just this past week in F1, and he hasn't had a lot of good results since joining the team. He did win one last year, though, right?
At Monza. Mhm.
At Monza, the other track in Italy.
Mhm.
And that is kind of how I put it. But it just doesn't seem that he's gelled with the car. Last year or this year, even, right? He finished 18th, I think, yesterday.
Mhm. Yeah, he
Plus
had
he
a
got hurt.
spin. He almost took out Bottas, who had a really good finish with a dirty
Mhm.
nose, right? So that he
Yeah.
dodged a bullet there. He ruined the day for Carlos Sainz, who again I would tell you is in the best package.
Yeah.
I know you and I disagree on that for now, but yeah, he's not been able to come together on that in that McLaren car. He had a win last year, though, right?
He
So
did.
that win gives you
He
a lot of credit,
he did. But
but he's
what were the
running
team
out of those
orders?
credits. I don't
There were
know.
team orders during that race.
Was it?
Hold your position. Yes.
Okay.
To his teammate that was faster than him. So, but he deserved it, right? He was up there, and they let it play out the way I guess they thought it should. But then you also have to think about hers in the mix, right? Because he's
Mhm.
testing. So to me, there's a lot of moving parts and potential opportunity to drive next to Lando, who Lando, by the way, is my son's favorite driver. So
Yeah.
I think does Rossi still have the dream to go to F1? I don't think it would happen. I think Father Time has caught up to him for that opportunity. So
Father time, father attitude, father results.
yeah, however you want to
Mhm.
play that out. But then you look at Herta and the F1 opportunity. If you keep wrecking cars when you're in not the ideal situation, you're not going to get a lot of looks. Now, if Team Andretti goes, he's going to get obviously the look. But if Team Andretti doesn't go, or they're not able to get the team that they're wishing to get, then what happens with Herta in F1? And I don't know if it's Herta's dream to go to F1, right? I think it's just kind of one of those things that his dream, from my understanding,
His
was
dream
to
is
be
to
an
go to
IndyCar.
F1. Yeah.
And
Without a
an
doubt.
F1 would be
Yeah.
like I'll go over there and ride.
Yeah. But I don't think his dream is, the just the manic nature that Pato seems to have in his focus on getting to F1, right? His success in IndyCar, him being Pato, I feel like his success in IndyCar is a necessary evil to get to Formula One. where I feel like, where Colton Herta, I feel like Colton will stay here and will be happy to be here and post results and win and be in contention every week. And if F1 happens, great. If it doesn't, he's going to have a really, really good career in IndyCar.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's how I would.
So what are your thoughts on Rossi going to Arrow McLaren if that does pan out?
Kind of surprised because, not only do the guys do the podcast together, but, Hinch wasn't exactly treated very well by Arrow McLaren. And, as McLaren was coming in and Arrow was there, and, they dumped him at the last minute, even after he had severed his relationship with Honda. And, as they were switching off to a Chevy team, and then they decided he wasn't their guy. And then he was out of a job. Yeah. And then, the way they treated Oliver Askew, who had some concussion issues, right? Was trying to get treated with that. Whether or not he handled it inside the team or not the right way, who knows? But the way that they treated Oliver, and then everything that's gone on with Felix Rosenqvist over the last couple of seasons too, right? All this, he's got to get his act together. He's got to start posting some results. He looks really bad up against Pato and all this other stuff. And it's like, every team wants to win, but how you work the driver and manage the ego, because they all
how you go about it. Yeah.
And some are more fragile than others. And how you manage that is not a one size fits all proposition.
Nope.
So, is Rossi ideally suited for that kind of an attitude? Probably, right? Probably. He doesn't need
I think he fits.
He probably doesn't need a lot of coddling, but
nope.
But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, if the results aren't there, and we saw that article last week where Michael was talking about when Alex is unhappy with something or anything that he needed to talk about, he's come to Michael to talk about, hey, I think we should try this, or hey, I think we should try that. Is he going to get that there at Arrow McLaren?
Well, the last thing I saw was that Pato was telling the UK that the people in the US
down.
Yeah, they can set up the car and go the right direction. They don't need any input from the UK. So I don't know how that operation works completely, but it sounds like there's a lot of people at the top telling everybody what to do and how to do it and get it done. And they may not be listening to those that have their feet on the ground every day, day in and day out, working on the car.
And I think regardless of how lean it's been for Alexander Rossi over the last couple of years, he has earned the right to be able to go to management, leadership, whatever you want to say, and say, hey, I think this is where we're falling down, or I think this is where we've got a gap. And I think this is what we could do to close that gap. And if they're not going to listen to him, I don't suspect he's going to enjoy that at all.
Yeah.
Hey, one other point on Alex Rossi, because it was in that article where they talked, and it's exactly this, right? Where he had talked about maybe helping them sort out their cars. I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on Alex Rossi, because I'm not, right? I would be just as happy to see him win again as I would be anybody else. And I root for him and I root for that team all the time. But I don't know that there's anything over the last couple of seasons that would suggest to me that that's his expertise, right? That whatever it is that Arrow McLaren is missing on their side, that maybe Alexander Rossi has the keys to that. And I'm going to put a pin in this concept because we're going to talk about it a little bit later on. It's not in the notes, but I want to talk about it because I thought about it after you and I spoke this afternoon. So really, I mean, from that perspective, Alex helping the team and doing yada, I just want to stop with that, right? I don't think that needs to be there. I think we should just call it what it is. Alex needs a change of pace. Andretti probably needs a change of pace as well. And that's why if this move happens, this is the reason why this move is happening. Let's just leave it at that. Right.
And Rossi has 7 all-time wins at IndyCar.
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. I was just looking at the list of all-time winners and seeing who's at the top, how many wins. AJ Foyt, 67. Mario, 52. Scott Dixon, 51. And the list goes on here a little bit with Michael Andretti at 42, Will Power at 40. At 7 wins, you got the ear of the owner of the team to say, we need to do this and we need to do that and we need to change this? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 7 wins is something.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's
Because
nothing. You just,
Brian Hurt is a very smart guy, very smart racer, very smart administratively, and I'm sure he had the ear of Rahal and Ganassi and
Yeah.
Andretti when he was there. But how many wins he's got? 2, 3,
yeah, he's probably, well, Laguna Seca
right?
dominated that place
Race
for a
wins
few
doesn't
years, but he's,
necessarily,
yeah,
translate to, on
okay.
track intelligence and
Yeah, that's a good
what he
point.
can bring.
I
Hey,
agree.
Dalton Kellett looks like a pretty damn smart guy when we see all the things that he's posting on TikTok and on his Twitter and all that stuff. He's
I
got no
agree.
wins. I
Yep.
don't even know the guy's got a top 15.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
Yeah. You have anything more to add on that?
Do you want me to? I can add some more. I think
do, yeah.
this whole thing is goes back to the theory, and I'm talking about Rossi at Andretti, and that this team is overextended. I believe it's still overextended. But when you hear stories that, how different cars handle from Meyer Shank, which everybody knows this is an Andretti engineered team, to what Jack is experiencing at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, you start to scratch your head and think, how off can the Andretti team really be if the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cars are that much further off?
Yeah.
And can that driver at an Andretti based team just go, I can tweak this or tweak that and make the difference? Everything is so closely spec based, we'll call it, right? So every little minor change is going to have an effect, but the Andretti cars are good. Maybe not great, but I would say they're really good. I've changed good to really good, just if you didn't catch on that, compared to what the RLL cars are doing. And so I don't know. It's just a little miscue, I think, on the Andretti side. And I think if you were giving advice as a driver, I think you'd be able to just get to that next little level, and they just haven't yet. But I've heard other things with having different pit crew members, race in and race out, and that they're juggling that in order to make sure that they've got people in the right places to get all the series and all the competition at everything that they do correct. And so they're hoping to bring some consistency to that, because they've lost a lot in the pits. The Andretti teams have.
Mm-hmm. Who do I root for week in and week out, whether I put it in these notes or not?
You root for the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan team
specifically,
and it's well, it depends
Jack.
on it's Jack, right? And it's Graham. It's both of them, actually.
So that's why I'm so interested that you brought this up, because we talk about Rossi, right? Is Rossi going to be able to make a contribution to Arrow McLaren getting together? If Rossi decides to go there next year, is he going to be able to bring any kind of Andretti knowledge with him? And it's going to help him out or whatever else it is. I don't think so. I really don't. And I don't put that on Alexander. That's not a judgment on Alexander. I just don't think that's what they do. Okay. An engineer leaving Andretti, a damper engineer leaving Andretti. Yes. A driver leaving Andretti. No. Elio Castroneves leaving Penske, or Simon Pagenaud leaving Penske. Is that going to have any impact on how Shank prepares their cars or how good the cars are? No. Maybe it might have something to do with how the pit crews train or how the pit crews prepare, for the race, regardless of the races. Maybe they can bring something like that, right? This is what we saw at Penske, right? This is what we saw at Andretti. Engineering wise, no. And it's funny because Graham mentioned it, right?
I was just going to go there,
where, Jack says, oh, our cars don't feel anything like the Shank car. Well, no kidding, dude, because the results tell you that. You don't have to be in the driver's seat to tell you that your cars don't drive like the Shank cars. Your cars don't drive like the Andretti cars.
Yeah.
Right. They're missing something. Like I tell you in the text message all the time, and it's a very Formula One concept, right? There is something from either their CFP, right, or a CFD, their wind tunnel, their shaker rig, that is not translating to what they're putting on the track.
You're talking about Team Rahal. Yep.
Yeah. Because there is no shortage of engineering at Rahal. There is no shortage of resources at Rahal. that would tell you that's how they're putting a car on the thing. So Jack's saying, well, your cars are very, very different than what I drove at Shank. Well, no kidding, dude. You knew that before you even got in one, right?
Did you? I don't know.
So Jack, who I root for, who I'm a fan of, right? And
Yeah.
I'm root for him hard. And I don't want anything to go wrong with this move to Rahal because I want him to succeed there. Okay. But what is Jack going to bring that he might have known or seen or whatever else it is that he did at Andretti?
But that's what Graham had said during an interview, that he wants Jack to bring what he learned over at Andretti and apply it to their cars.
Extraordinarily
That's what I heard.
Unrealistic. I heard it too. Extraordinarily unrealistic expectations in my mind.
So that's goes back to Rossi bringing knowledge to Arrow McLaren.
Extraordinarily unrealistic expectations in my mind. Yep.
And I know you root for Jack Harvey. You root for him day in and day out.
I want a signed diecast. I was trying to get a signed diecast from him on Twitter yesterday, and I never even got it. I was
just saying, hey, whichever one you take to the checkered flag first, that's the one that I like. I don't care what the livery looks like.
I like the black.
Yeah, you said all black, didn't you? How do you get a signature on that? You got to do it with the white pen
or the silver one. The silver.
Oh, silver.
Yeah,
black and silver. Okay. I like that.
So I guess, more to come on that. We're certainly going to hear a lot about this. Now, we did have one interesting fact come out of the Indy 500 test. And what was it, Tim?
Well, it was very interesting at the open test. And by the way, so everybody knows, tires and fuel are funded by the teams, right? They're funded by the teams. The series has nothing to do with it.
Duh.
Okay. That's a duh moment. We got clarification on Twitter, though.
We did. Nathan Brown.
Yeah, he did. He said, here's what goes on.
Thanks, Nathan, for responding. So,
yeah,
good news. Peretta Autosport partnering with Ed Carpenter Racing to enter Simona Di Silvestro in 3 races later this season. They're Road America, which I love, Mid-Ohio, and Nashville. Sounds like it'll be a female pit crew as it was last year, which I think is great. And I like this partnership too. What about you, Tim?
I like it as well. I liked it better with Penske, but this is great for Ed Carpenter Racing and Peretta Autosport.
I agree.
All right. Perfect.
I want to get to the sustainability efforts announced by the Speedway at another time, though. So I do want to address it here because we'll definitely get some feedback on that. But I've not had a chance to dig into it too much. So I'd like to table it for another episode. All I know is that Bill from Shelby will certainly have an opinion about the electric Freightliner that'll be traipsing across the United States to help for the
talking about Billy, right? Billy.
Yep. Oh yeah.
All right.
Bill from Shelby. We'll be doing the green Firestones that'll appear in Nashville. So
they're going to put green paint on them.
Yeah, yes, the big green sidewall tires are, and again, I got to look into it. They're made of something that's more sustainable, something less damaging to the environment.
So it's obviously it's all about environmental concerns. So I haven't heard anything about this. This is all new to me, but I'd like to hear more.
We'll get into it.
Not completely on my radar, so
Yep,
I'll let you bring it.
Yep, no, I neither.
Right.
I suspect too that the very emotional response on Twitter, I'm sure you saw that, about the indefinite pause on the balloon launch probably plays into the sustainability situation.
I think so too. I was surprised they've carried that tradition as long as they have. Every time the balloons go up, I think of the fish and the birds and the wildlife, because that's a lot. That's a lot of. It's cool to see, but at the same time, it's not necessary.
I'm thrilled to see that your environmental sustainability margin just got a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I care a little bit, but I don't think you got to throw balloons up in the air anymore. Come on now. People were upset about that. I actually missed it.
Oh, are you kidding me? It was, Oh, yeah.
Unless you have some type of, you have like the straws, right? They went from plastic to paper. Can you have paper balloons and send them up?
When I see a paper straw at a restaurant, I'm always like, can I have 4 of those?
It's like because you chew on your straw and it
no, because they only last a quarter of the glass.
Yeah, they are disgusting.
Yeah.
If anybody that likes them, I don't know.
All right.
Write us about it. Tell us why.
So on to our feature. IndyCar visits Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. I like this track. It's a bucket list for me. Tim, your thoughts?
I don't know. Where do you rate it on your bucket list? Because it's not really been on mine.
So you're I think
And let me add, hold on, before you start responding, where does it rank compared to Road America, Laguna Seca? Because they must be on your list as well.
yeah.
And I'm very interested to know if it's the museum you want to go to, or what's
Yeah.
got the draw.
I like the road course. I like the undulations. Why, I like to go to Mid Ohio. Road America for me is by far number one.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the case, because that was my thought.
This would be number two, and this would be well ahead of Laguna.
Really?
Yeah, I would put Long Beach ahead of Laguna. And I don't think I would put Long Beach ahead of Barber.
No, you put Barber in front of Long Beach, and then you've got Laguna after that.
Yep.
Interesting. I like Laguna. I like the corkscrew. Like, that would be cool to see, but I don't even know if there's any
I don't think
chance
you
to
can
view
even
the
sit up there. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So,
all right.
well, my projected poll for this weekend, Romain Grosjean. I'm expecting continued strong showings by the Andretti Autosport Group to continue at Barber, even though we just had a very lengthy discussion about Andretti. They seemingly did get things back in a better place at Long Beach, which I believe we expected. So I would expect them to continue to be strong here. What about you? Who's your projected poll, Tim?
I'm on the fence on this one. I don't know. It's been all over the place. There's been one team that's dominated everything, right? Yeah, just kind of throw it up and see what happens. But Ganassi's been strong here too. So I'm thinking it's going to be maybe an all Ganassi or Penske weekend. But my poll winner is going to be Pato Award.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, he won it last year, and maybe he'll do it again.
He did. This is the first time I didn't pick Will Power for either one of my picks and watch Will sweep the weekend.
Did you just write down my pick?
I did. I always do.
I know.
So my projected winner is Scott Dixon, solely because Scott does not have a win at Barber, if you can believe that. He does not have a win at Barber, and I think he's time. I think it's due.
I think I have a Ganassi car winning. I think it's going to be Marcus Ericsson.
Oh, I like it.
He's going to come through on the Husky Chocolate, and he's going to be the leader of the team for the weekend. And, he's going to qualify really high. I think probably a third.
The Husky Chocolate Chip Ganassi.
Yes, the Husky Chocolate Chip Ganassi. And I think he's due after last week, the disappointment, 2 weeks, whatever it was ago, disappointment of putting the car in the wall there and sitting on the sideline. I think he's going to have something to prove, and he's going to do it on the track at Barber.
Yep. Stories to watch, again, this one's just staying in permanent ink right now as Penske continue this domination, right? Are there going to be any Honda teams? I think you're saying that Ganassi might be able to pull this thing out and get and take something to Penske here, right?
Yeah, I am. But it's going to be tough to do. These cars are so tight, so close. Talent on both sides of the fence. Those are the two most dominant teams in the series, as everybody knows. Penske showed everybody up, and we've attributed that to Chevy. So we're both predicting Honda to get their first victory of the year. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition.
Yep, there you go. It's a broken record, unfortunately, but is Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan going to get their act together? What did we say? Graham qualified last year in the teens somewhere and actually had a pretty good finish, if I remember correctly.
Last year at this event?
Yeah.
You were just looking at that.
He started,
weren't you?
15th maybe, and finished in 7th or something along the lines of that.
But yeah, I don't have the results up from last year, but that's typical Graham drive, right?
It is.
He does it every race.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the teens, and then all of a sudden we're top 10.
Yep. Started 7th or started 18th and finished 7th.
Yeah. So it's going to be another one of those weekends.
Yep.
For them.
And Sato was the teammate last year, and Sato finished 13th after starting 19th. So this could be a decent track for Ray Hall to get themselves back in play. Another story to watch: Jimmy Johnson, that broken hand. He's had a couple of weeks to heal, but he's got a big screw in there.
He's fine.
These cars are hard to manhandle around the track like that. No power steering.
It's going to be demanding, but I think he'll do just fine.
Yep. You talked about Ganassi. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, definitely. Then you got Arrow McLaren. Can they show up strong? Pato finished 4th last year. And as I stated earlier, he started first, so he had the pole, and I picked him for the pole again this year. Felix Rosenqvist finished 21st, and he started 22nd, so he didn't have a strong showing last year. But can Arrow McLaren and that Chevy Power get it hooked up early and stay up front? We'll see.
Right. Two new pieces here I'll add is where's Coin? Coin is always the little team that can and the little team that has. And we have not seen much out of Coin Racing so far this season. So I'm curious to see how they get their act back together.
Season opener, not too bad though.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yep.
Foyt, on the other hand, not necessarily the best of results, right? But really putting in much better effort, much better showings this season, I think, than we saw last year. And Bourdais finished 5th here last year. So this could be an opportunity for Kyle Kirkwood.
Let's see it happen.
Yeah.
Is he your top rookie finisher this weekend?
If I had to pick one, I would tell you, is he going to be my top rookie finisher? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I think so.
Malukas has not done anything. That's that Coin, right?
Yeah.
Dylan DeFrancesco was just been playing, pinball.
Yeah, he hasn't done well either.
Yeah.
Or Tatiana?
No.
Who knows? You don't think so?
No.
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 Yeah, or Lundgaard. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I like Lundgaard, but
yeah.
Lundgaard.
Rahal.
I know, right? You got to start in the back.
Yeah.
It's just like the Ray Hall curse, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Let's start in the back and see how far you can get up front. Good luck.
Well, that's all
And
I
I think
got.
the other story is, I got one more thing. The other story is, can we avoid the first lap crash that happened last year? I think we can, because it's not normally prone to that. That was, if you recall, that was Newgarden getting off track and coming across and taking out Herta and several others, including
Power even. Yep.
it was Dixon too, maybe. I don't know. So let's hope that doesn't happen on that's coming out of turn 3 or 4, whatever that is, going back to the hairpin corner.
Coming out of turn 4.
Is it 4-4? It's
No, let's just
4-4?
call it that.
Turn 4. Okay. Oh yeah, it's coming out of turn 4, of course.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
That's all I got. Hey, before I go, I want to give a nice shout out to the social media staff. They've been doing a great job over the last few weeks, driving a lot of engagements. I think our humble little show here has really done a nice job in picking up viewers, not only viewers on our YouTube channel, but also listeners on the podcast here. So
yeah, we're next to all the big boys now.
Yes, and engagements on Twitter, right? I think people are starting to understand who we are, not just from the turn 4 handle, but yours and mine. So
yeah,
and
understand that we know what we're talking about too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been good.
Yep, not just a couple of dum-dums, a couple of knuckleheads, but no dum-dums.
A couple of knuckleheads.
Yeah,
that was the first 4 episodes. If you want to go back and listen,
there you go.
They're out there.
They're out there.
We didn't take them down. Yep. Everything we've done is out there.
That's right. So I would tell you to continue to engage with us on social media.
Can I add?
Yeah.
That we don't edit either. Sure. So if you're still
we
listening,
don't anymore.
this is a long episode.
Yeah.
We don't edit. So
should be right about the hour, because how many takes did we do for the intro?
Well, the intro was a little bit of a debacle today, where somebody had the giggles, and then the weather discussion before the show, and then he had to bring that in, and yeah, it was just difficult. I had to do the intro today because
thanks for bailing me out.
You were struggling, but it's all good. I know I just interrupted you about interacting with us on Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is turn_4 spelled out _podcast. And our website is www.turn4, the letter or the number 4, I should say, podcast.com. We always want to hear from you. So reach out to us.
Everything in the show notes.
Yep. Everything's in the show notes.
Yep. So we will catch you after Barber for a race review.
We're going to do that. We just talked about that.
To put that one together, because we're under a crunch for that one.
Yeah, it's going to be fast and furious.
Yeah.
Because we got deadlines and we've got travel. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on. So we're going to try to make it happen.
So I appreciate it. So, hey, thank you to all the listeners, and we'll be sure to catch you next Monday, same place, same time.
Sounds good. See you.